guys, it's me, Carrie Silverlining Mena, and this episode I'm going to talk about what I have uncovered through my digging deeper into my experience with Twin 3. And what the main conclusion, there's lots of conclusions I've come to, but I'll start with this one. One of the conclusions I've come to is that Jesse was never meant to be, I was never meant to have a romantic relationship with him, as I believe I will with the other two. But I was always meant to believe I was. In fact, the guides, Fairy Girl, all of them went overboard with feeding this story to me. And as I tell this story, I will throw in how many different ways in which this expectation was created. And you already know some of them, like that past life story of me being, not having any more prospects. All my other boyfriends were off the table. So I thought I'd give this guy a shot, this guy that made me jewelry out of iron. And just as a recap, Fairy Girl fed me this story. And you know what? They're so tricky with their words. Okay, I have so many things to share about. Did you ever go to like a hypnotist show or watch one? I'm going to stay away from too many details, but in my youth, I used to go to this club, and if you paid for the hypnotist show, you didn't have to pay for admission to get in. So I'd always pay for the show and then go to the club afterwards. But in this one show I went to, I had a friend with me, and the hypnotist asked her a question. He said to her, what's your name? Write your name down for me. And he handed her a clipboard with paper and pen or crayon or whatever it was, and he said, well, do you write better in printing or cursive? Oh, I know. He regressed her back to like a 5-year-old, so she was a really little wee thing talking in a little girl voice. So he said to her, he goes, write your name down. Do you write better in cursive or handwriting? Just write down whatever you do best. So she writes the word swim. So everybody laughed and got a big kick out of her saying that her name was Swim. But the way he phrased his words made us believe that we wanted her to write her name down. But what he really told her to do was write down what she did best. But we don't hear that stuff. We hear what we want to hear. We hear what we're tricked into hearing. So this happens all the time in this spirituality. So when Fairy Girl said to me, she's retelling this past life story of me as this young girl giving this other guy a chance. She says, I think this will be very healing for you. I want you to picture this guy with the face that Fairy Boy has now, because he has a nice face. So because we were already talking about Fairy Boy, and because she said to put his face on it, his current face on it, that led me to believe that past life was him. But she never came out and said that. So she did a little tricky business with me. So that was one expectation. Another expectation was that the beginning of me and Jesse was, and don't forget this, Fairy Girl went out of her way to connect Jesse and Fairy Boy. There were two very specific clues about them that, well, I'm not going to go on to it, but very specific clues. I was like, these two are meant to go together somehow. Not only that, they kind of played out at the same time. Not entirely, but a little bit. And but what was another thing that fed into the expectation was that whatever was going on with Fairy Boy on this side, I was doing the reverse over here with Jesse on this side. So that was yet another, way to set me up to believe this was a romantic relationship. So many more. And then, the whole thing about, here's another trick. The guides had been telling me all along that not all along, like Jean-Francois surprised me with it about 1.5 years ago. And he said that before I connect with Fairy Boy, there would be another man that came first. I would choose another man first. So I have some theories about that. One, it's just a flat out lie. Or there is yet another man out there that's going to come my way. Or it was like one of those like bouncing off of timelines. And on that day, I was on that trajectory to be with Jesse. Or when they said I would choose another before I connected with Fairy Boy, I did choose Jesse. But once I figured shit out, I changed my mind as I was supposed to. So maybe it counts that I chose him but didn't go through with it, because remember, Jesse is an experience through observation. And Pierre, I've spent some time cursing at Pierre for lying to me and telling me that this was an experience to be learned through observation. And, at the end of this, I see that because I really believed I had to go back, I had to go be with him. When Fairy Girl said that I'm going to, or not I'm going to, but in this other life that I gave this guy a chance. And once I fucked him, I fell in love with him because he was so nice. That was totally setting me up for past patterns. And since I wouldn't have gone on my own, gone to Colorado, I believed that Fairy Girl, this was her way of letting me know that it's okay. It's okay. I know you feel weird, but trust it, because you're going to find love. So all these things fed into that. Even still, though, I felt such a huge, huge resistance. And I got to talk about that resistance, because back about a year ago, when I had it wasn't a year ago, it was November, when I had my Silver Linings event, I mentioned that, I already believed that Jesse was going to be a romantic twin because of all of the parallels with what I was already going through with, I've already had all these clues. So I think that's going to be him. So I'm like, fuck it. If this is how it's going to be, then I'm just going to go for it, because I want to move on. I want to move forward. That's how I am. I'm just like, go, go, go. And I will push through shit I don't want to push through in order to get there. But when push came to shove, I couldn't do it. I could not do it. Such relief. But I did believe, because of all of the clues and, lies and parallels and my own personal experience, because I got to remind you that with Michael and Fairy Boy, it really did. My heart absolutely cracked open in a minute. And with Michael, it was before I even met him. And with Fairy Boy, it was after having known him a year. So I still had this, I call it a belief, but it was really a fear that would happen to me. I did not want my heart to crack open for Jesse. I did not want to have love with him. I know why now, but I didn't get it then. And what I decided it was on that first round was that I believed he was a reflection of me, and all of the repulsive feelings I had towards him were really about myself, that I found myself too disgusting to be touched. And maybe that was true. Or maybe I was internalizing it because I couldn't believe that it was my path to talk that shit about somebody else on my show. But I've come to a place where I realize that it's okay, because things aren't as they seem. And so this second round, when I had to do it again, I already had Pierre let me know that this was the observation, so I should not have fallen back into this place. But we repeated the same pattern where I believe I have to find love and have sex and all this stuff with this guy that I don't want to. I believe that I have issues to release and shed myself from. So I went right back to that place of believing it. So I went right back to that place. If you remember, that when I said I was going to go to Colorado, my response was, let's just get this fucking shit started already. I wasn't excited about it at all. However, put it into a different perspective. If it was another man, one that I was interested in, and he gave me like carte blanche to go and plan our romantic week together, I would have been fucking thrilled with it. So I understood that was, a gift in its own way. So I kind of clung to the trip part, to the place I wanted to go, to the thought of somebody taking care of me in this like romantic way and being the one to open up my heart and free me of these feelings I had. So I was willing to do that. So as soon as I made that, I know I'm repeating, but we need the context. As soon as I opened that door and made that announcement, Jesse came right back. Actually, I messaged him first and said, before I did the video, I said, let's just do this. Let's just fucking do it. So of course he was thrilled, and he had his own, the guides fucked with him too and tricked him into believing something that might not be true. I don't want to forget that one. So I'm going to try to remember this one specific example that he shared with me that now in retrospect, I see that I'll tell you later. So here I am again making these plans to go meet this guy. And I'm like, even though I love Colorado, I was not getting excited. My switch never went to joy. It stayed in like, well, we'll see what happens. All I can do is try to flat out, fuck this. I'm not doing this shit. I'm not doing it. So I found my way. And, once I kind of, I told you in that last video that Jesse and I kind of got frustrated with each other and there was some tension and we kind of both said, he said, I'm out. I was already I wasn't sure yet if I was out because I was still like, I'm not sure yet. And let me tell you why I'm not sure. This is what I'm trying to get at. I'm a smart girl and I would get to that place of, no, I'm not doing this like I did back in November. I'm not doing this, but I kept falling back into that place of, but wonder if she flips my switch, wonder if this is why. So I kept falling back down into powerlessness. And I couldn't understand why I kept doing that. And I'd be so angry because it's like, I knew 5 minutes ago that I didn't have to go. I knew 5 minutes ago that I was in control and that I had the power. So why am I back in this place? And you know how I always say, I've been going off for a long time now about don't shove shit in my message box. I don't want your channelings. I don't want your videos. I don't want anything that's outside of me. If I want it, I will seek it out. Well, I'm not drawn to very many things, but I was drawn to my friend Jane. She has a QHHT biz. She's a QHHT girl. I actually had a session with her in UK. That's a little bit interesting. I'll have to talk to her about that one day because I was so completely off on one thing about Avery. I'll just tell you real quick. I just, in my, my trancy state, we were trying to investigate this relationship with Avery. And this was like, I don't know, like weeks before he had proposed to me. So I didn't even understand what all that shit was about yet. But she asked me about Avery and I was like, oh, I think it's just going to be a bit of a novelty and I'll move on. Not even realizing at the time that he was going to be my constant throughout lifetimes. But the other thing I learned through her is that my higher self told me to take care of myself and be good to myself in a simple way. And the way that we came up with through this hypnosis, or I don't know if that's hypnosis or not. I don't know what it is. Anyway, you're in a different place. And we decided that to go ahead and pay the extra money for the avocados because they're good for you. And I deserve it. I deserve nutrition in the form of an avocado. So quit cheaping out, Carrie. Spend the extra coins on the avocado. So when her and I message each other, there's always a little avocado emoji. So I'm kind of drawn to her work, or at least this one bit. I started to read how she was talking. Look, I went on details. I said I wouldn't do that and I did it. Sorry. Okay, so she was talking about this woman, this client she had, and about why this client chose to have a tumultuous marriage. And so that drew me. So I was reading it, and I said, wow, sounds like you're describing me. And we had a little mini exchange. And then her next article came out. So I read that one too because I find her to be so smart. She's so smart. We're like on the same, teaching the same things, but I'm teaching it through these stories, these informal stories where I mess up my words all the time and cry and snot everywhere. But she's doing it in the form of her website, her blog. I don't even know what to call it, but she's so articulate. I have such an appreciation for fine grammar. If you don't know the difference between your, and there, and there, and I hate all that shit. Learn the use of apostrophes. But that's just a personal peeve. So, having said that, I really appreciate competent, articulate writing. So, reading her next blog, or I don't know what to call it, paragraph? No, I don't know, whatever. Her thing. It spoke about how in order to heal from our past traumas, we have to drop our vibration back into that place in which we already experienced them. And I used to talk about those delusional transmutation bullshit cycles I would go through, in which I felt like the entire world was coming to an end. Doom and gloom, no way out. Well, I believe that that's what happened with Jesse to an extent. In that I was going through, bouncing up and down between this delusional place of thinking one thing. It wasn't so overt, because I would go through, it would be like days in a row where I'd feel like it was the end of the world. Like entirely, like I couldn't pull myself out. But this was like more mellow, like stretched out. So it lasted a while, but I was up and down. I couldn't recognize it for what it was. But after reading her article and seeing that it's necessary for us to be in that lower place in order to heal from the trauma, that put it all together. And that, because I was like, well, Carrie, why are you so stupid? Why would you do it again? Why would you decide to go sleep with him again if you didn't want to the first time and you don't even want to this time? Why are you doing this? Well, that's why I need to drop myself into that place. And again, and there's more revealed through each layer. So let me tell you what was revealed through this layer. Now, I don't know if I just said this because I rehearsed it in my brain. I don't know if I internalized all of the feelings I had about Jesse, because it just didn't seem reasonable that I would talk my shit about. I'm a nice person. I don't want to be hurtful to anybody else. I'm welcome to feel whatever I feel, but to talk the shit on my show is just cruel. So I found a way to make it about me and put all that responsibility on me. But I don't think it was me. I think it was him. But not him, because he served as a representative for the men in the brothel. And once I let myself go to that place, then I realized it's not me that feels untouchable. It's that when I think about touching this particular person, and it's Jesse, because he's the representative for the others. So I did project it all onto him, because that's what he signed up for. That's what he agreed to be for me, was this person that created these feelings of disgust and oppression, so that I can decide once and for all that I don't have to do that. And it was, and also, yeah, it had to bring me back to those places of trauma. And so I did. I went back and visited, and I don't have any memories specifically of the brothel, except for, that past life regression I did and saw Eric on the bed. So all of these things are just things that I'm assuming from watching movies or reading books. But I have to have so much more compassion for Marianna than I have. And I don't mean to say I was cruel about her, but I haven't really examined it. And if you think, a reminder of her story, she was a young girl. She was traveling with her mom and her dad and her little sister from Louisiana across America. I don't know if they were going to go hit the gold rush in California or what, but along the way, her father was murdered by bad guys. I don't know who. And by the time they got to, well, it's not even where they were going, but when their mama died, and I'm assuming that their mama died, and they just ended up there. And that was the town in Utah. So here I am as a young girl, no parents, and a little sister to take care of. So I had to go be a young girl. I bet I was 14 or 15. I bet I was just like me. And I looked older for my age. As Carrie, I was a pretty girl. So that makes me so sad. I try to think back if I was 14 years old and I had to go in a brothel, be a prostitute. It sounds horrible. So I try to picture this girl, and if she was me, then I can see her falling in love with some of the men that came to see her. And I bet some of the men did bring her gifts and woo her. That's why I was second best secret. And I connected my experience with Michael. And again, these aren't, I thought it was in general, but now I'm wondering if these people that I'm doing these do-overs with represented actual people, not just a general vibe. Because I feel like maybe Michael was the one that represented the man who did have, affection for me and, feelings for me. I was a sweet young girl in a brothel who lost her parents. But I was his secret girl. And, he'd come visit me on Saturday night, play some poker with his friends or whatever. I don't know. And then come up and spend time with me. Maybe he skipped all that poker stuff and came straight to me. But come Sunday morning, he was back at church with his wife. Everybody loved them. They were great. I was the second best secret, waiting back in my brothel room, waiting for him to come back and give me his little breadcrumbs, just the little bits and pieces. I stayed. I continued to love him. And then I had to put into perspective, because my experience with him was a little bit different with Fairy Boy, because Fairy Boy didn't go back to his wife like in that other life. What happened in this life, as I mentioned before, was the reason I had to be second best secret is because after he was with me, he would go be with the public girl, and the public girl was my friend, so I had to be quiet. She was my friend. And there were enough times where I stayed with that guy. I mean, I was basically having an affair with my friend's boyfriend in a way, but it was all emotional. Once the act itself had, taken place, I was just being strung along for who knows what reason. Because I needed it, because I still loved them, and I didn't want to let them go, and I didn't feel worthy enough in this life to not tolerate that shit. And the reason I didn't feel worthy enough to not tolerate that shit in this life is because I didn't have a choice in the last life. So this life was a way for me to learn I do have a choice. I can stop that stuff. I can stop being oppressed. So let me go back to that oppression. So, I'm going to go back to the brothel, and I started to imagine how having a man that I was not attracted to be on me, and think about those times in the saloon. Think of the movies and those nasty, nasty men with yellow teeth and tobacco-filled mouths and smelling like who knows how many days out on the range, and just dirty, nasty, smelly men that I had to fuck because the madam said I did, because I was property, and because I had an obligation to take care of somebody else. I had to do this, and you can imagine how disgusting it was. So when I'm here faced with the guides telling me, go get this man, go fuck him, and I'm like, I had to believe that I was the disgusting one. I didn't get it at first, but now I get it. He represented those nasty, disgusting fucks. So all of that repulsion I felt. Remember, I was like, get it off me, get it off me. I believed that I didn't realize that my feelings were like, just get the fat off me. No, because when I was feeling that, I would be like, get your fucking energetic paws off me. I hated the thought of him thinking about me. Get your fucking hands off me. It put me in a rage, and I was in a rage, and somehow I had to go from this rage to choosing to fuck this guy so that he could love me. What the fuck was that? And I kept falling into this place. But it was just observation. All I needed were the triggers of being bombarded and oppressed and making me feel like I have to do something for somebody else, even though I didn't want to. That's all I needed in order for me to get over being fucking raped. I may have given them permission, but it was still rape. I didn't ever want to do any of that stuff with those men, except for maybe the ones that loved me. The ones I couldn't have, the ones that were never going to be mine. So I let them go. And I decided to give that one man, the one that made me jewelry out of iron, and I'm thinking the fucking smelly old barn, did he like make horseshoes? Did this guy come and visit me in the brothel smell? Because I'll tell you, I said I wouldn't talk about the images they gave me. They gave me images of steaming piles of dog shit and wading through pools of vomit, like a swimming pool filled to my neck with vomit. And that's what they were showing me before. So now I'm putting it together. And I don't know where the vomit came from. Maybe drunk people puked. Maybe I puked. Maybe it was just an image of puke. But manure. I'm sure some of these men smelled like shit. They probably had fucking horse shit on their hands touching me. So that's where that repulsion came from. Maybe it did transfer into disgust about myself. But I honestly don't think Jesse is a disgusting, filthy, nasty person. I really don't. I've met him a few times and he seems fairly hygienic. I didn't get any odd odors or anything else. He didn't look dirty. And he's nice. He's a nice guy. So I truly was projecting. And in the last video, I thought that maybe we really did have, like maybe that really was him. And we were having a do-over because of the way he made me feel like a prostitute. I tried to project and even it out and make it like a true reciprocation. But I don't have any idea what he's learning from me because like I said in my paragraph leading into the next video, here's an example. Imagine me and Jesse on that train that I wanted so much to go on in Colorado. And we're sitting across from each other. And I'm looking out this window and he's looking out this window. He sees the mountain. I see the ocean. We are on the same ride, but we have completely different views. So while I believe that there was an actual person that Jesse represented, I'm not so sold on it being him. And the reason I say that is because I just said that Michael represented the married man that went back to his wife. But in that life, he was there. And I don't know if he was like a sister prostitute, but he lived in that brothel with me. And he wasn't a true sister, but I believe he must have been a friend. I know that, we are very close over there. So it stands to reason that we had a very close relationship as friends. Like, Heather and I are like sisters now, but not sisters. I believe that's how me and Michael were. He used to make my dresses for me. So all my projecting about this married man leaving me or whatever isn't really Michael. Just like I don't think that Allison is really my mom. In fact, I don't think either of them were the madam in the brothel, because one day when I was in Belgium, I was driving around with Gerald and Emma, and we were talking about past lives. And Emma started to tell me about the time that she was a madam in the brothel in, the wild, wild west of America. And I went, I know that life. You were my madam. So you see how people that represent a trauma from another life didn't necessarily provide that trauma in that life. They are just representatives. So I also wanted to go back and use the example of how twins are not use the example, but give an example of how twins are not always romantic twins. Clearly now I see that Jesse was never meant to be a romantic twin. But you know who else was my twin? I never talk about this twin. I've only just begun to explore it a little bit. Well, I've explored it in depth myself, but I mean explore it through this show. But on The Shiny Show, and for those of you that are tuning in late, The Shiny Show is a show I did for a few years. I had a partner. It was an amazing show. We channeled everything. We channeled all of the planets and, that the scientists have claimed are in our solar system. There's probably more that we don't know about. Therefore, they must not exist if the humans haven't discovered them yet, right? But so, we interviewed all the planets. We interviewed archangels and gods, plural. We interviewed past celebrities, past historical figures, current celebrities that had just passed. We even interviewed people that were still alive. We got their higher selves like Snoop Dogg and Stephen King and Oprah, Grumpy Cat. Grumpy Cat has since passed, but we even channeled my own body parts. I did like a body scan and my body told me in which ways to chill out or to keep going. So it was an amazing show. But, and on one of those shows, one of the episodes, we were talking to Archangel Michael, and I didn't have an opportunity back then to find out about twin flames. And many people in the spiritual community, they just don't have a clear concept of what it is. So many are still under the impression that it's one soul split in two here on earth, and we come back together and have this, blissful life together. No. We don't come to earth to have bliss. We come to earth to shake shit up and heal. So Archangel Michael, so I was asking some questions, trying to get little tidbits of it. but I didn't want to use that show for my own personal evolution like I use this one. But I did get a tidbit, and Archangel Michael said that my partner on that show, Allison, and I were twins. And I didn't know what it meant at all at that time. But I have come to learn that what a twin means, when somebody is your twin, it just means that your vibrations match. You guys are in a good place to provide one another with an experience. So, my experience with Allison, the reason she was my twin was because she really did represent my mom. And like Jesse really wasn't that, unhygienic, filthy guy, Allison wasn't necessarily my narcissistic mom. But she pulled some shenanigans on me that triggered me. Like, sending messages in my message box isn't the same thing as being raped. But do you see how the triggers can, cross over like that? So I'll just throw out a couple of examples of what happened, because I know so many people are curious about that, and I'm not here to shit talk. I've watched our mutual friends. You've seen it, the public battles on the internet of she said this and she said that, and all of this stuff. I'm not interested in doing this. I'm not here to make Allison out to be a bad guy because she did this to me. I don't feel that way at all. Not at all. So, and that's one of the reasons that I have resisted talking about this ever, is that I don't want a public war. So in case this video stirs any shit, I'm probably just going to ignore it. I was tagged many times over in her group, and I had gotten many private messages. I've ignored it all because I'm not interested in a battle, at least not an outer battle. The inner work, I certainly did. But one of the things that she did, and I'm not telling any secrets, she was very public about this, but in my evolution, I learned my self-empowerment through my mommy issues and my men issues. Well, she chose it. She's such a gifted psychic that, her guides had to lay on her. I mean, I say guides, but really it's only her higher self. The guides may participate in creating circumstances, but it's always your higher self, who is you, that brings you the journey that you're in. So she was feeling sensitive about this, I don't even know, I may be wrong, but like some voodoo gods that were using the higher selves of our mutual friends in order to psychically attack her. And I didn't know enough about any of this stuff. I totally deferred to her expertise, just like a child would to their mother. So she told me, listen, this person is psychically attacking me, and this person's in on it. So I need you to unfriend them so that we can stay safe from them. And again, I was like, whoa, okay. So I did that. And later on, and she did it a few more times with a few more friends, but some of them I didn't know or care about. I was like, okay, whatever. But some of them were my friends, and I didn't want to let them go. And that reminded me of is the way my mom made me choose sides. She'd say, listen, I'm pissed off at your cousins because they did all these things to me, so you can't talk to them or be friends with them either. And I'm like, I love my cousins. I don't want to do that. So even though Allison was not being unkind to me, that triggered something. I mean, she was coming from a place of her own fear and wanting to protect her and me. So it wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but it served as that trigger for me. And there was another one I'll share about that's not necessarily bad, but in the context of my past, it rubbed me the wrong way and triggered me. And it's when I was trying to do the tours. I had my shiny events and I had my stardust events. And it was important to me to give my full attention on each one. So I wanted to spread these events out. But she really, she was coming all the way from Australia. So she wanted to find a way to have the shiny event and the stardust event close to each other so that she can attend both. But that was going to create so much imposition on me, like all of those messages in my inbox. And I was like, I can't. And I've already set a date. There were so many reasons why that wasn't going to work for me. So I had to lay down the law and just say, no, this won't work. But what that brought me back to was when my mom, I used to live in New Jersey, and I had a friend in California, my best friend, and I'd go out there all the time. I'd take this 5-hour flight to spend the weekend with her, and we'd go off and do young person things. She had a friend that had this little mini yacht, and we'd go party our balls off on this boat and wherever it was. We wanted to be we wanted to watch the sunrise. We were partying. And so when my mom would find out I'd go, she lived like a 3-hour drive. She'd go, well, next time invite me. I'll come down. I'll come stay with you. I'll drive. It's okay. And so she, I knew she didn't have money, so she didn't want to stay in a hotel. She'd want to stay with us. So I'd have to ask my friend Jerry, can she come stay with us? And I didn't want her to, for one thing. I didn't want to ask Jerry. I didn't want my mom to come. But if I did go that route, my mom, she even said, I'll sleep on the couch, but she's got a bad back. I mean, like a seriously fucked up back. So I'm not going to let my mom sleep on the couch and put me in the bed. So then I'd lose my own sleeping spot. So there were so many reasons why I was just like, get the fuck out of my biz, Mom. You're not invited to come hang out at my young person parties. Stop insinuating myself into my world. So when Allison, again, she wasn't trying to be dicky. She just wanted to come be part of the party, just like my mom. So that served as a huge trigger for me. So there were a couple of those things where, people aren't necessarily being bad and evil, but they're triggers for past things. Now, let me go back and I don't really want to talk this shit, but I don't see how I can avoid it because, again, while I am projecting this onto particular people, it's for my evolution. And while Michael and Fairy Boy were, they were lessons in a particular thing. I've already told you 1,000 times. But Allison and Jesse ended up not being who I thought they were. Because they started off, even though I didn't recognize that Allison was a mommy figure, she was somebody that, I deferred to. She had expertise. She had knowledge. She also came off as somebody that knew what the fuck she was talking about. So, and my mom was the same way. They just act like they know everything. So you believe it. You believe in their confidence in themselves. So she came off as somebody, and, we had this great show together, and she gave me so much information about, my life and my journey through these, psychic channelings, both privately and on the Shiny show. She provided so much good for me and so much learning and so much evolution. And I loved her. And she loved me. It was a good, positive experience. And with Jesse, even though I never did love him, he did love me. And he showed me, the first round, he did show me what it's like to be loved by somebody, which was, an observation on how Fairy Boy did not love me. This guy's giving me tons of attention. This guy's not giving me anything. So Jesse did help me see the value in me. He did show me that I do deserve attention, that I don't deserve to be ignored. So both of these people represented good in my life. They represented people that cared about me. So I became vulnerable to them so that when the time came to be manipulated and oppressed, I was already in a place to have it just dropped on me. When you think about your oppressors, the oppressors of the world, they are not, political leaders or in your biz. They are not and they are for some people. They really are. I mean, some people truly do get kidnapped and held hostage at gunpoint. That is a true oppression. That's an obvious oppression, but that's coming from like a bad guy. My oppressors came in the form of good guys, so I didn't recognize it. And if any of you are being oppressed in some way, it probably is from somebody that you are vulnerable to. Again, I didn't love Jesse, but he represented love to me. So, it could be a parent, it could be a boyfriend, it could be a teacher, it could be a priest. We are oppressed by those that love us. We are oppressed by those that we allow ourselves to be vulnerable to because we think that it is good for us. So feeling that feeling of extreme relief from the oppression after I, changed my mind about Jesse, and it reminded me of how I felt when I gave up my relationship with Allison. In fact, as I'm going through this thing with Jesse, I'm thinking, okay, I got to get through this and then it will be okay again. I got to get through my shit and then I can have a good time with him again. We could be friends, whatever it is, I can let this go. And that's how I felt about Allison. I even flat out told her, I said that you are my mommy. You are representing my mommy. These are my mommy issues. And once I heal from them, then we can go back to how it was, or how it was, but in a better way without me having these mommy issues. Because, we're told all the time that until you heal from a past trauma, the universe will continue to bring it to you. And then once you're done and you conquer it, it won't be provided for you anymore. So I believe that I could continue to have a relationship with both of these people once I got done with my shit. But it's been a while since I said goodbye to that part of my life, the shiny show part of my life. And I have no desire to go back to that. And with my mom is not on a healing journey. She's just not. So I really don't believe that there will ever be a reconnection with her again. I don't care if there is. However, with Jesse and Allison, they are both on a path of, a spiritual path towards healing. So while I have zero interest in ever connecting with them again, I feel no obligation whatsoever. I'm open to the possibility because, they are growing and evolving in the same way I am. So that's possible, but I don't think so. And it was really hard for me to say that about somebody who was so nice to me. But that's why I'm here. I'm here. Well, that is why I'm here on this show telling about it right now. Because you guys, some of you, probably all of you, have had some kind of oppression in your life at one point. And it's okay to cut off these toxic relationships, even when they're telling you, I love you. Even when they're, even when it looks so sunshiny on one side, it's not. So it's okay to let them go. And once you do, the relief you feel is beyond measure. Okay, so I wanted to, it's 10:17. Ting! How do you like that? Let me go through my notes a little bit. I took notes this time. Okay. Oh, and I wanted to say, I've been meaning to say this for every single video in the past few weeks, but I keep forgetting. And all the shit I talk about my husband, I always, counter that with praise, because he really is a good man. And here's one of those where I'm going to talk my shit then praise. Well, we haven't had like a romantic physical relationship really ever. I mean, bits and pieces, and there was more at the beginning. But with him, unlike any other man that I've ever been involved with, there was no sex expectation from him. I had plenty of other expectations, and he is actually one of my oppressors too. But it's in a different context. And it's not so much that he wants to hold me down or whatever, but I can't live my free life. I just can't yet. And that's going to be my next, one of my future things. So whatever. I don't want to get into that right now. I'm not like hiding from it or whatever. It's just not time yet. But he too, the people that you love are the ones that oppress you in one way or another. But he never ever put any kind of sex expectation. I have no sex damage or trauma from him. Clearly, I'm a girl that needed that. So that context makes sense. I didn't need to have sex shit with him. Okay. Let me go on. Okay. Got that one. Got that one. Ooh, I'm doing pretty good. Okay. Oh, I did so much stuff. Hang on. I should just pause this, but you can just stare at me reading. Okay. God, I already did all that too. Okay. Here's another thing too. Oh wait, I just lost it. Never meant to. Oh, okay. So when I had my experience with Michael, oh God, I realized so much stuff with him too. My experience with Michael, I said it took 4 years, and Fairy Girl told me at one point, and I believed it and then I didn't believe it, but now I believe it again. But she told me that his higher self just got tired of waiting for me. He was ready to move on. So that created a need for me to have a second twin. Usually, like with Jesse, you do the thing like I did in November. You decide you're going to go do whatever with him. Then you change your mind and you guys split apart and that's it. Then some reason, something brings you back together and you repeat that pattern, peel off another layer, and whatever. That's what I did with Jesse. With Jesse, I recognized right away what was happening because it was with him. Not only that, I'd already done repeats, but the first time I did repeats, it was with Michael and then another person entirely. And I told you, I'm very reluctant to give this little bit of information, but I'm going to. But I spoke about that shenanigan that the guy pulled on me in order to get me to leave Michael alone once and for all. The thing that pissed me the fuck off. And basically what happened, since he was just ready to move on, and therefore I had to, the guides had to the adjustment bureau had to adjust things and bring me another twin. They brought a replacement for me, for Michael. So because of my lack of learning, I got stuck for so long. We both had to move on and we both had a need to create another representative for who we originally started this journey with. So just for context, it took me 4 years to get through Michael. It took me 2 years to get through Fairy Boy. It took me a year to do the first round with Jesse, and it took me about 10 days to 2 weeks to do the second round with Jesse. I had learned. And I want to go back to the last video in the paragraph describing it. I said there were some things where I misspoke. There were a couple things, but the one that I really want to address, the only one I can really remember right now, is when I was talking about Jesse and I said that he wasn't trying to buy sex through giving me the gifts that he was giving me. He was trying to, what was it? Whatever I said he was trying to earn sex, not buy. I can't remember how I said it, but I said it so wrong. I meant to say that the gifts were probably ways in which he believed would woo me into loving him. And that's not a bad thing. So, but what came out of my mouth was something else entirely, which could have been like one of those, is it a Freudian slip or just a regular slip to where I was going back to that other place and said the wrong thing, projecting. And for what it's worth, again, I don't think Jesse's a bad person. I think that the reason that he was kind to me the way he was and showered me with gifts from his perspective, not from mine, because mine, it was meant to, give me this experience. But I think the experience he wanted me to have was to create warm, fuzzy feelings inside of him. And it did make, inside of me, it did make him feel good to make me feel that way. And again, that's not such a bad thing. But it was bigger and deeper. It provided bigger triggers and bigger underlying meanings for it. So again, when I badmouth him, understand that I'm badmouthing an experience I had with somebody that wasn't even him. And again, and another thing I wanted to point out is that, we're in the time of this pandemic and everybody, all of the travel arrangements are extremely flexible right now. There's no way that nobody's going to refund your money. We have plenty. We had like 6 to 8 weeks in order to cancel that hotel reservation. So that was okay. I saw for myself that the train tickets were refundable. I don't even know if we bought them. And I even looked myself, because I don't deal with airfare, but I looked about refundable airfare during the coronavirus. And there was some law passed to where airlines have to refund you. I don't know the details or whatever, but he's not out any money. So, and I appreciate the timing of this, because I would have felt bad if I had, it's one thing to cause them extra work to go and cancel everything, but it's another thing to cause him, a financial loss. And that would have made me very uncomfortable. I probably would have found a way to pony up and pay for part of it, but I don't need to because he got all his money back. I'm sure. I don't know if he did, but I believe he can. Let's see. I did have other things to say. Let's see. Okay. Well, I know that I'm going to sit on this video for a little bit, but I did have one story that I wanted to share about the way, guides do fuck with us. and provide clues that we just run with. I'm the most guilty of this. And it was a while back, maybe a month ago. I don't even know how long I've been dealing with this shit. Maybe 2 months ago. But Jesse sent me a timestamp in which to go watch one of my own videos. And it was the one in that Heather Trance channeled Minerva. And what he wanted me to see was this part in which Minerva says that I'm going to meet a man comes into my life he's going to change my life. And that's the timestamp. I know that he wanted me to see that. I don't know if he believed that he was the man or if he was hoping he was the man. And, that's the kind of clue that somebody can take and run with. So that played into his expectation that I was the one. He had plenty of things that, fed into his expectation. And I honestly don't know what's in it for him. I tried to figure it out. I tried to dissect it and figure out what's in it for him. How is this benefiting him? But I don't know that. Just like like with Allison, I was like, well, since she represents my mommy, do I represent her daughter? I could represent something else entirely. I could represent an employee she had for, I don't know. I have no idea. But just last night, I wanted to go back and listen to that thing that Jesse recommended I hear, because I know there were other relevant things there. It spoke about my marriage, and it spoke about me finally remembering, not even remembering Avery, but being conscious for when he comes to see me and how excited Minerva is for that. But another thing that, in this, I kept asking, well, give me a nugget, give me a tidbit. And Minerva flat out refused. Nope. I'm not giving you anything because you ask all the time. And if you ask all the time, we're going to start giving you the wrong answers, or we're not going to say anything. And the medium will just give you something to appease you. So, you're going to fuck yourself. In fact, if you keep asking questions, she flat out said this to me. She goes, there's going to be, and I don't know if she said there is going to be, or there may be, or whatever. But either way, the message soaked in last night. It was like such a perfect piece of validation. I didn't even need the validation anymore, but there it was handed to me. Right on silver linings, on my silver lining platter. But what she said was that I will be lied to. I will be giving misinformation in order for me to quit listening to them, to the guides, the information I'm getting out of readings, and learn to follow my gut. So not only was I healing from past traumas and feeling all these nasty, get your fucking hands off me feelings, I was learning to trust that feeling of resistance. No matter what anybody tells me, no matter what things look like, I am to trust that gut. This gut was so strong that if I ever have any kind of, I'll never distrust it again. I will recognize it. There's no way you can deny it. I'm hoping that it doesn't have to come out that strong in order for me to, pick up on it. Because I don't wish that on anybody. I remember not too long ago, I wanted to go message Michael and ask him, are you disgusted with me? Is the reason you don't want to spend time with me? Is the reason you pulled away because I'm so disgusting and nasty that you can't stand the thought of touching me? I wanted to know if that's what it was like to be a twin flame runner. Is that really what people suffer? Because if so, I was like, I don't wish this on anybody. I don't even want my twinnies to come back to me if this is the feeling they have to feel in order to get there. You go off and you be free. You forget about me, because I don't want to be responsible for making somebody else feel that way. That's how horrible it was. It was just shackled under oppression and having to do something with somebody I didn't want to do. Somebody that was nasty and dirty and smelly and gross and fuck you. Ugh. That's how, I cannot emphasize enough how horrible that was. And I'm glad I get the opportunity to say what it really is now, that it wasn't me. I'm not that disgusting. I am shy. But when I think about Michael or Fairy Boy touching me, I'm cool with it. I'm still in that place of let's go ahead and turn off the light and close your eyes. And maybe this is like the no touch zone. But I'm not afraid of it. Bring it on. So all of that truly was a projection on that particular dynamic of the men trying to buy me, the men paying for me and pushing themselves on me whether I wanted it or not. Ooh. Okay, let's see. I can't believe I talked for a whole hour again, and I'm sure I forgot some shit. But I don't think I'll add too much. Maybe I'll add an introduction. I don't know if there's something I really, really want to add, but I got so much shit pouring in me so fast that I can't wait too long in between videos. I want, they'll be 4 hours long. So let me wrap this up. Okay. Sorry I gave too many details again, but God, I'm getting oh, you know what? Some of you, just like Heather, some of you expressed to me that they didn't think it was a good idea that I go to Colorado, both privately and publicly through comments. You guys let me know. Oh, I didn't think that was going to happen. That didn't sound so right. So I'm giving you a high five for recognizing that. I don't know if that, if that is like an indication that you are that much more evolved in your own journey or if it was that obvious. I don't know. But those of you that congratulated me and were excited for me, look how you guys got fooled just like I did. You guys got sucked right into the bullshit like I did. All right. So remember to stay true to yourself. If it feels that wrong, then it's fucking wrong. But if you still go through it, if you're still dealing with it and you still can't make that crossover from point A to point B, cut yourself some slack because you have to be in a place to drop yourself into that vibration to make those poor choices in order to recreate the past trauma and heal from it. So be good to yourself, okay? Love yourself. All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.